It's 9 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Sweetwater City Council for our February 10th meeting. I'm going to ask Chief Stroman if he'll do the invocation and Council Member Carrie Baker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Good morning. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, and we just thank you for the opportunity to gather together. And God, we seldom recognize that things like this meeting are still an act of worship. But God, to be good stewards of the community that you've given us, then let this truly be an act of worship. Lord, we thank you for the beautiful weather outside. We pray that you would be with this meeting today. We pray special blessing over each of these council members as they seek your will and enact different items of interest for the community. And just thank you that we are blessed to live in this area. These things pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We'll start off this morning. We've got a good crowd here, and I appreciate that. We want to welcome the Leadership Sweetwater class being here today. Appreciate y'all taking the time that y'all have invested in learning more about the community, and I would like to know who everybody is. Can we start it over here?
Right here. Brock Carter, I'm the Chief Deputy with the Nome County Sheriff's Office.
Rich Berg, I'm the Senior Vice President, First Financial Bank. And Tyler Moody, the pastor at First Methodist Church.
Jill Renard, Administrator at Sterling Hills.
Haley Morales, and I'm with Roscoe Bank. Lucretia Hoover, and I'm with the hospital.
I'm Justin Hesterly. I'm with the National Wasp Orchard Museum, and I'm an archivist.
Arnold Soto, I am with TSTC.
Okay, thank y'all. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Say again, please. I'm sorry, I missed your name. Oh.
Me?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Mitchell Raines, retired TDCJ.
Okay, all righty. Okay, thank y'all for, I'm sorry.
I'm Haley Smith, I'm the Supervisor of the Animal Control here.
Ted Beard, Fire Chief of City Sweetwater.
And as an act of worship, Tad's going to do interpretive dancing for us.
Okay, again, thank y'all. I promise you we'll have a short agenda so y'all can move on to the more entertaining stuff. Item 5, discuss, consider, and act upon approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 13th, 2026. Motion from the council.
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Item 6 calls for public input. At this time, anyone is allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters or matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. No council discussion or action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted. Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Okay. Moving on to item 7, we'll hear from Police Chief Corey Stroman on the Sweetwater Police Department Racial Profile Annual Report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll help you fulfill your promise of a brief meeting, and I'll read this verbatim very quickly. But you should all have before you our annual racial profiling report. The data is compiled by the staff of the Sweetwater Police Department, and then we send it to Dr. Alex Del Carmen, who is one of the nation's experts on racial profiling. And this is a contract we've had with him for several years because it just seems fitting that we would send the data to an outside party, because it's very simple for me to say, hey, we're not doing it, but it's a lot better to give the data elsewhere for them to examine it. So racial profiling reports are required of our officers on every stop that they initiate. So be it a pedestrian or traffic contact, they will initiate a racial profiling report. And it has a series of questions that are mandated to gather that data, such as what was the reason for the stop? Was the race or ethnicity known of the driver prior to the stop? Was there a search conducted? If a search was conducted, was contraband located? And then it asks for the disposition of the stop. The reason for that racial profiling data is to be able to identify if there are any trends, such as any race or ethnicity that has a higher incidence of either traffic citations or even traffic violations that are being enforced. And the data reflects that still consistently pretty across the board, there was no issues or anything noted. We're legislatively mandated to present that to you as another system of checks and balances for law enforcement. There's a series of those, and we're actually happy they're in place. So this is us presenting that racial profiling report to each of you today.
Any questions for Chief Strobel? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 8, which we will hear a presentation from Police Officer Trevin Berry regarding Police K-9 Dash's first safety book. And good morning to Dasha also.
So I will apologize. I had ordered books for each of you to have one today. The ice storm delayed that shipment. However, I do have a couple of copies that y'all are more than welcome to look at. And I'll turn it over to my friend Decker from Sweetwater High School.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you for allowing us to speak with you today. My name is Allie Thompson,
And I'm Sophia Vella.
and we just here to talk to you today about our DECA project that is now going to state. So, bullying affects nearly 1 in 5 students, and for younger children, it often goes unreported because they lack the confidence or language to speak up. In Sweetwater ISD, many kindergarten through 3rd grade students often feel intimidated by law enforcement, which creates another barrier to early intervention. Dasha Speaks Up was created to address both of these challenges at once by teaching kindness early and building trust between students and those here to protect them.
Dasha is one of the Sweetwater Police Department's narcotics canines assigned to SRO Berry. Her calm and friendly presence makes students feel safe, heard, and understood. We use Dasha as a bridge, connecting anti-bullying education with age-appropriate tools that young children can understand. The project includes a children's book titled Dasha Speaks Up Against Bullying, awareness bracelets, poster campaigns, school assemblies, and community outreach events. Each element was intentionally designed to help students recognize bullying and feel confident speaking up. Our mission is simple: turn bullying into kindness. We taught students to replace harm, hurtful words, abuse, ridicule, and manipulation with kind. Keep others in mind, include everyone, nurture with compassion, and do good without expecting return. This framework gave students clear, memorable language to understand their choices and their impact on others.
Through school assemblies at Eastridge and Southeast Elementary, we reached over 560 students. Community events like National Night Out and Trunk or Treat allowed us to engage more than 1,000 community members. We installed over 50 anti-bullying posters across elementary campuses and distributed bracelets that reinforce kindness every day. More importantly, we saw students asking questions, sharing experiences, and beginning to speak up. Dasha Speaks Up proves that early intervention works when it's approachable, intentional, and community-driven. With continued support, this project can expand to reach more students and address additional topics. And if Officer Berry wants to.
So with this program, and I want to say thank you to Mr. Sheridan and Chief Stroman for green lighting this project along with the superintendent, Mr. Spencer. The book was illustrated by graphic design students. It's being promoted by DECA. It's a community partnership. My goal, my hope, I have a meeting with Ms. Hunt's group at the Chamber of Commerce in a week to try and get under the Sweetwater Improvement umbrella so that we can take donations. The goal is to provide a copy of this book to every student in Sweetwater ISD, pre-K through 3rd, and life skills regardless of grade. should donations exceed the need for Sweetwater, we'll certainly reach out, Cornerstone, Roscoe, Highland, Blackwell, because we do have citizens that live in Sweetwater that their kids go to those schools, and we don't want to leave anyone out if we don't have to. So we're still kind of in the mid-beginning phase here, but I do want to thank y'all for your continued support, the support of the school district. My beautiful wife, who feeds into some of my harebrained ideas and tells me when they're not going to work, because without my family, this wouldn't even be on the radar. So again, thank you, and hopefully we'll have many more books to come. We have some in the pipe to start working towards about feelings, personal space, the good touch, bad touch, school safety, things like that. It's just how do we gear those towards that age group. So I will get y'all copies once I get them in. They're in pre-shipment status, so I apologize for not being here today, but the snow definitely delayed us. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. We appreciate y'all's efforts. That's a very commendable task y'all have undertaken. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda, item 9A, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon entering into a contract for independent auditing services for the city of Sweetwater, Texas, and authorizing the city manager to execute such contract. Good morning, Krista.
Good morning. I am recommending that we go with the MWH Group due to their experience with municipalities of similar size to the city of Sweetwater, along with their demonstrated experience with the GFOA Certificate of Achievement Award. Do y'all have any questions for me? We are sad to lose Kathy after so many years, but we think MWH will be a good partner for the city of Sweetwater.
Where do they office out of?
Wichita Falls.
Okay. Just a single office?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Not a large firm. I would put it at a medium-sized firm.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion to act upon the recommendation from Krista Cornegie hiring MWH Group for our auditing services?
Motion. I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 9A is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. 9B, we will discuss, consider, and act upon accepting low bid from Red River Remediation for demolition and remediation of the structures located at 110 and 112 West Broadway and 114 West Broadway. Do we have any questions for Bester?
How soon will they start working if it's approved, ma'am?
They are working with the 23rd,
Ma'am?
February 23.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Brian, do you feel comfortable with the bids that came in?
I do, yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll make a motion, we accept the low bidding from Red River Remediation for demolition and remediation of the structures located at 110, 112 West Broadway and 114 West Broadway.
Second.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of accepting this bid, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 9B is approved. Item 9C. Looks to be the end of a long road that we're coming to here. We're going to enter into public hearing to amend the future land use map of the 2022 comprehensive plan for the city of Sweetwater. Do I hear a motion to enter into public hearing?
Motion. I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to enter into public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed. We are now in public hearing. Bester, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council. So in 2022, the City of Sweetwater adopted a comprehensive plan. And a comprehensive plan is adopted for the sake of orderly development, safety, and welfare of the community. So the City of Sweetwater did that in 2022. So the state requires that once you do that, you have to have your zoning regulations match with your comprehensive plan. So to match that, the City of Sweetwater entered into a contract with Kendig-Kist to make sure that the zoning ordinance matched with what they had adopted in 2022. So with that, we had first a public hearing with a map that was done with Kendig-Kist, of course, with the other regulations. And this happened on August 26, 2025. And at that meeting, as many of you know, there was a lot of pushback from the community, a lot of concerns that were raised by the community. And of course, the Planning and Zoning Commission didn't want to just ignore those concerns. They took to themselves to work, to make sure that whatever was being proposed was something that would work well for the community. So the, I wish I had a remote control.
Here you go.
So this one is the future land use plan that was adopted in 2022 by the city. So after the adoption of that, of course, like I said again, the city hired Kendig-Kist to make sure that the zoning ordinance as well as the maps that are associated with it are consistent with the future land use that was adopted in 2022. However, just doing that to just try to match the proposed zoning map, which is the future land use map and the zoning map, when they just tried to do a map that was matching that future land use. That's what generated a lot of concerns from the community. And of course, the Planning and Zoning Commission took to themselves to really go through this map and make sure that whatever was being proposed was something that would work for the community. So with that, this Planning and Zoning Commission had in total 8 work sessions. The 4 of them were just focused on the zoning map. They went through all the properties as much, and it's of course a commission with 7 leaders from this community that know this community very well, and some of them are property owners, so they really went thoroughly through this proposed zoning map. And so 4 of them were just focused on that, but 4 others were focused on the regulations, because the zoning ordinance that does not just have maps, it also has regulations. So 4 was dedicated to the zoning map, and the other 4 was dedicated to the regulations themselves. And as I said again, the state requires that whatever zoning that you have, it has to be consistent with the future land use. So the future land use, after the commission went through their work sessions, there was need for us to amend the future land use map, because the future land use map is the one that feeds the zoning map. So there was need for after the changes that the commissioners proposed, there was need for us to pull back, because the state does not permit any municipality to approve any zoning that is not consistent with the future land use. So these changes that the commission proposed needed the future land use map to be amended. And the future land use map has to be amended before a zoning map can be approved. Before any zoning changes can be approved, the future land use map has to be amended. This is the reason why we are bringing this before you, that the future land use map that was adopted in 2022 need to be amended. And this is something that a municipality can do after a public hearing, notices and everything. You are allowed to be able to amend your future land use, so that way, when you adopt your zoning map or your zoning districts, they are consistent with the future land use. So this morning, we are presenting before you a zoning map. However, before this zoning map can be approved, or there is need for the future land use map to be amended. So this is the proposed future land use map that will now be consistent with the proposed zoning map that the commissioners worked on. So this morning, this staff is asking that you have those three options, either to approve the future land use map as presented, or you can approve some amendments to it should you find fitting to make some changes, and you have to state those changes. You can also deny, just say flat out, no, we don't want to do it. However, if you do that, we cannot move forward, because then this is depending, the zoning map is depending on your approval of this one. So, but staff is recommending that you go ahead and hold a public hearing and approve the future land use map as presented. And also, I want you to know that at the January 29, 2025, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended that you approve this future land use map amendment. And I'll be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Any questions for Bester?
I have one. So in the event that this is fully passed, what is the recourse still if somebody needed to make an amendment to any of the stuff that's on there now, like in the future?
You can also have the same process.
The same process?
Yes, the public hearing and the amendments are introduced and all that. It's the same thing.
Well, you mean like needing it, like a certain lot needing an amendment? Is that what you really mean, or just ongoing
Just
changing?
ongoing amendment. If there's things that change as our city grows and our businesses grow, what is that recourse for us to be able to amend it?
Yes, it's the same process. It's not written in stone, because this is done so that way you can always revisit. If there's something that is not working, you can always make the recommendation to have it amended.
Any more questions for Bester? Is there anyone else here who wants to speak on amending the future land use map? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Public hearing is now closed, so we'll move on to item 9D, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon an ordinance adopting amendment to the future land use map of the 2022 comprehensive plan for the city of Sweetwater. Any questions that have arisen in the past 15 seconds?
I move we approve the future land use map as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment to the future land use map is approved. I will read the ordinance into the record. An ordinance adopting amendment to the future land use plan of the 2022 comprehensive plan for the city of Sweetwater, Texas, pursuant to Chapter 213 of the Texas Local Government Code, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for a severability clause, providing for a savings clause, providing for publication, and an effective date. Now move on to item 9E, which is to enter into a public hearing for the proposed zoning land use ordinance update. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we enter into a public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. We are now in public hearing. Bester, the floor is yours again.
Yes, thank you. Today, for this part of the zoning ordinance, I'm going to have the contractor or the consultant that has been working with us on this to do the first part. They are going to talk more about their regulations. So I have Ashley, also she's going to speak.
Hi. I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sure if you all are able to see it.
We see it.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna go over the content of the new zoning land use ordinance and just key updates that were made throughout the process. The first will be about the zoning districts. So each zoning district will have a purpose statement, which explains what the district would be optimally used for and what it should look like, any development within that district. There's also a use table in each district that outlines the uses that are permitted, limited, and conditional. And there are tables in each district that has specific dimensional requirements for developing the land in each district. So that contains things like lot area, lot width, setbacks, building height, etc. Some key updates within the zoning district sections are the zoning districts were updated to reflect the future land use categories in the comprehensive plan, which was just touched on with the future land use map. And we've also included easy to read tables and graphics and different illustrations, which you can see on the right hand of the screen there, just to make things as user-friendly and easy to read and easy to find information as possible. These are the new zoning districts that we are proposing as part of this. The first is suburban residential, which is a very suburban character that may include some open space for residents or the general public, but most of the open space is going to be on private lots like yards. And the uses that are going to be most common in this district are single unit detached homes, but may have some institutional uses like schools or parks. The next residential zoning district is the traditional neighborhood, and that has a more pre-suburban character. So that's going to be smaller lots, smaller setbacks, shorter blocks, a little more walkable than the suburban residential. Again, this is going to be used for a mix of low to medium density housing types. So single unit detached, single unit attached homes, duplexes, cottage courts. And then the third residential zoning district is the neighborhood mix. And that is a residential character that has a mix of different types of housing and a mix of lot sizes. So the land uses that are included in this district are going to be medium density homes. So that's single unit detached, duplex, cottage courts, and then higher density ones such as multiplex, multi-unit apartments, and different residential uses like that. The next zoning district is the neighborhood transition, and this one creates a bridge between the more pedestrian-oriented and then the more auto-oriented developments. So this will have continuous building frontages and stronger pedestrian connections like sidewalks and being able to walk around the area. Land uses in this district are going to be small-scale retail and personal services, activities, and some residential uses. And the next one is downtown, and that was designed to be consistent with the existing historic character of the area. And typical land uses are going to be a mix of commercial, office, and different residential uses. And then the next is general retail, and this is going to be an auto-oriented commercial district that could consist of single or multi-tenant buildings with parking lots. Typical land uses will be local retail, sales, and services with some limited residential uses like apartments, for example. This is going to be commercial aimed at more local, closer residents, so typically smaller, like I said, single or multi-tenant buildings, but less of the big box stores, for example. And then regional commercial is where you're going to find more of the big box variety. And this is very auto-oriented. It's going to have large parking lots and ideally should be placed near high traffic intersections and highways. The uses are going to include a wide variety of high activity uses, so commercial, service, retail, and different compatible uses that will attract customers not only within the city limits, but from the whole kind of regional area, like destination shopping and things like that. And then light industrial is the next district, and this could be campus or warehouse style development that is ideally located along major rail or highway corridors. The typical land uses are going to be the less intense industrial uses with operations that are fully contained within the building and have minimal side effects on adjacent properties. And then the heavy industrial is the character of that area is going to be typically more varying lot sizes depending on what the exact use needs. And that's going to be along major highways and roads as well. And typical land uses within this are going to be of a heavier nature than the light industrial. And it may result in surrounding properties would consider a nuisance, such as sound, maybe outdoor security lighting, outdoor storage, a lot more truck traffic, things like that. And finally, agricultural. And that is going to be of a very rural character, located in less developed areas of the city, and consist of large lots that are mainly containing open space. And typical land uses for this district are going to be oriented towards agricultural operations or some sort of agribusiness, with some supported rural businesses, some very low residential uses like a ranchette, and other uses that are intended to protect and preserve valuable agricultural land and pasture lands within the city. There are also two overlays that are being proposed, and each of these will have the base zoning district, so one of the districts that I just explained, and this designation will be on top of that. There are two overlay districts proposed, the Gateway Overlay District, and that aims to enhance visual appeal at key gateways into the city, and it includes properties with frontage along Interstate 20, Lamar Street, Broadway Street, and Haley Street. And then the Infill Overlay, which is aimed to encourage development and redevelopment within key areas of the city. And within these overlay districts, there's different development standards. So things like landscaping or parking or signage. So in the infill overlay, there's some things that are a little relaxed or more of a context-based approach than just the standard zoning district. And then the overlay district, there is a little bit more enhanced landscaping than just the base zoning district. For land uses is the next section that we're going to talk about. So we have a consolidated table as well as the individual tables within each of the zoning district sections. So that is a really convenient way to just all at once be able to see what is allowed in each district. The P is for permitted use by right, the L is for limited use, and that is a use that is allowed but has standards but can be administratively approved. They're very objective standards. And then the C is conditional use, so that would have to go in front of the city council for approval. And then the 2- is prohibited. And then there's also a D, which is determined by the administrator. And this section outlines the standards related to a specific use, whether it's a limited use or a conditional use. And it also lists out the standards for accessory uses and structures and temporary uses. Some key updates to this section: we're adding new uses, consolidating similar uses, and removing outdated uses. We also added use categories as a way to classify land uses based on how they function and physical appearance. So that cuts down on the number of specific uses that need to be listed in the table, and also offers a framework for the city moving forward when new uses pop up, as a way for them to more quickly be able to identify what use they would fall into, what use category they would fall into, and how to best regulate them. Added provisions for accessory and temporary uses and structures was also something that was done. And then we introduced the limited uses, which I mentioned before, have standards, but they are approved administratively because they are standards that do not require discretion. And it's basically, if you meet these standards, you can check a box and then it's able to be administratively approved. That way it still has standards, but it's able to be approved more quickly and moved through the system a little faster. The next section is site and building design. So this section contains moderate building standards that only apply to non-residential buildings and then apartment buildings within the downtown zoning district, just to maintain a similar scale. So how tall the building is, where it is in relation to the sidewalk, just to maintain what the downtown already has there. And this section also includes standards for dumpster and their enclosures, outdoor dining facilities, drive-in and drive-through facilities, outdoor storage for non-residential uses, and outdoor display of merchandise. And it also outlines height maximums and permitted and prohibited materials for fences and freestanding walls. The key updates, it was pretty much everything in this section was new. So for that, and the next section is parking, and this contains design standards for regular and then the ADA accessible parking spaces. It also includes minimum number of loading spaces based on the use category. So if it's a light industrial use or warehouse use and it's so large, then they're required to have so many loading spaces. And it also has design and screening standards. So if it's visible from the right of way, it needs to be screened in some way, either with a fence or landscaping. And also includes a minimum number of stacking spaces required based on the land use and design standards to go in with that. Stacking spaces are, if you see the image there on the bottom right, the areas that vehicles stack whenever in a queue for something like a drive-through, for example. These are also all new provisions that we added. Next is landscaping and buffer yards. So for general landscaping, there's minimum size of landscaping areas and the types of landscaping based on the zoning district, the use that is on the property, and then the number of landscaping plantings that are required. There's also illustrations and images to show the different landscaping types. So what's where the parking lot landscaping goes versus what the buffer yards look like and where they should be planted. Provisions for how many plantings and what kind are required. So again, if you see on the right there of the buffer yard example, it has the minimum width that the buffer yard is required to be, how many canopy trees, how many ornamental trees, and how many shrubs would be required per the buffer yard. So for example, that first one, the natural buffer yard that is type A, it would require to be at least 10 feet in width, have 1 canopy tree, have 2 ornamental trees, and 10 shrubs. And the buffer yards are required whenever there are differing zoning districts next to each other. And then there are some limited uses that also require a buffer yard. And then we also introduced tree preservation credits. So we want to promote the preservation of healthy and mature trees. So if they are able to keep some of those on the property, then they will get credit for that. So instead of having them plant, 3 new small trees, we'd rather them keep 1 big mature tree. These were also all new provisions, the landscaping. So this is something new that we're introducing. And then outdoor lighting, this contains standards for light fixtures, location, and design. And this aids in reducing light pollution, spillover onto adjacent property, and general nuisance or hazards that can be caused by excessive brightness or glare of outdoor lights. So there are cutoff and shielding requirements. There's a maximum height for how tall the light poles can be, and then a foot candle maximum at the property line. These are also all new provisions that we're introducing. And then the next section is signage, and this provides for and outlines standards for several different temporary signs as well as permanent signs. The standards themselves control just the physical sign characteristics, such as the number allowed, the height, the clearance, and et cetera. We're unable to have any standards that dictate the content of the sign, so these are just strictly the structure and parameters of the sign. It also contains standards for signs on illumination, so whether or not they can be externally or internally illuminated, for example, or changeable copy. So that is when there is lettering that could change, and that could be a manual change or an electronic change where it's like the digital screens that can change. The key updates within this section is we added more sign types. We added graphic illustrations of each sign type, and on the right there, you can see the different examples for a wall sign. And the sign standards differ based on the sign type and zoning district. So instead of everything being all the same, no matter what kind of sign it is or what kind of zoning district it is, we have made it more customized, because something that works in the regional commercial wouldn't make sense in the neighborhood transition district, for example. And then the next section is about the development review bodies. So this describes the administrative, elected, or appointed bodies and lists their powers and duties related to the ordinance. So these would be the director, the building official, development review committee, city council, planning, zoning commission, and board of adjustments. The key updates within this section that we made was added more details about the duties and responsibilities, and each administrative review title is defined as including and designee. So that allows for flexibility when necessary, and it makes it to where you do not have to add and designee every single time that it's mentioned throughout the ordinance. It's just included in the definition. So anytime it is listed in the ordinance, and designee is assumed to be as part of that. Next is the development review procedures. We detailed all of the common review procedures that are applicable to all of the applications that are covered within the ordinance. So things like submitting the application, public notice, fees, all of that is taken care of in one section, so you don't have to keep repeating things over and over. And we have also established clear review criteria to help facilitate review and final decisions. And then we also have included a development review summary table, which a screenshot of part of that is on the right there. And it contains all the different applications and cross references to each individual section for them, the timing of or when the application is needed. So for example, the sign permit, it is needed prior to the installing or relocating or substantially modifying a sign. It also lists the expiration if no action is taken, and who makes the recommendations and or the final decision. Again, for the sign permit, you can see the final decision and recommendations are both made by the director, and cross-references any related standards. Again, using the sign permit as an example, it on the far right column there has a linked reference to the Division 4.7 signage, which are the sign regulations. Some key updates within this section is consolidating the language regarding processes for a review and decision. So it's all in one place and not scattered throughout the ordinance. So it's really easy to figure out what the process for each procedure is. And we added many new procedures about the different applications. So now every application that is mentioned within the ordinance is going to be listed in this section and a procedure of what needs to happen. And finally, measurements and word usage. So this section shows how to measure things like building height, lot area, lot width, sign height. It's displayed in a table, which a screenshot is to the right there. And it has the methodology for how the measurement is done, and then a graphic which illustrates what is being explained by the methodology. Also within this section is the word usage, and this describes how to interpret language that's used in the ordinance. So the meaning of shall versus may, what and means versus or, how to round numbers for things like tree plantings or parking spaces, and how to calculate the number of days. So if something states something needs to happen within 30 days, what does a day mean? And it includes a definition section as well that houses all the words that are defined. So different land uses are defined, more plenary words like setback and things like that are also defined. So any definition, again, it's all housed in one place. So it makes it really easy to find, and it's at the end of the document. So when someone's looking through it, they don't have to scroll through 15 pages of definitions before they're able to get to the content of the code. So it's more familiar way to set it up as like a glossary and have it in the back. Again, trying to increase the user friendliness as much as possible and make it easy to find things. Some key updates within this section were added more measurements, added graphics, and then adding definitions for different things, including some of the new land uses that were introduced. And nonconformities and enforcement. So nonconformities, this section describes the different types of nonconformities, which are sometimes called things that have been grandfathered in. And it outlines under what circumstances they may continue and then what circumstances would terminate it. So if they are damaged so much, then they may not be able to continue, or if it is a use that is no longer allowed, but it has been operating, so it's been grandfathered in, if that use then leaves, they're not able to go back in, for example. And some key updates with this is, again, we consolidated all of these provisions into one place, so it's easier to find things, and we outline in more detail the different types of nonconformities and in what circumstances they can continue or when they would have to conform to these new standards. I believe in the current zoning ordinance, you have non-conforming uses and standards, and we've also expanded that to non-conforming signs and other non-conforming elements. So things like non-conforming landscaping or non-conforming lighting or different things like that. So it can be a little more inclusive of different things. And then enforcement of the ZLUO. It describes what constitutes a violation and then outlines the process of enforcement. So how the owners are notified of the violations, the time frame that they have to correct those violations, which entity can impose the remedies and penalties if they don't correct it, etc. And some key updates within this section, again, consolidating all related provisions into one place, and it details what a violation is, more details with the notification process, and then adding a timeline for the person who is in violation to be able to fix that violation. And then as part of this is the updated zoning map, which Bester touched on a little bit whenever she was talking about the future land use map, but she is going to explain the process of how we got to where we are, I think, a little now. So Bester, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ashley. So for the zoning map, as I said again, after the concerns from the community, the commission took time to really go through every one of the properties that they could look at to make sure that what is being proposed is what will work for the community. They worked with people from the community, and at the end of the sessions, they also had a public engagement where they were just updating the community what they had done, and so this is how this map was brought into light. This is also what will be consistent with the future land use map that you all have just approved. And let me also touch on something that Ashley talked about, which we went through when we were doing the sessions. The other pushback was on non-conformities, which is the grandfathering. We are going to have a lot of our properties that will be grandfathered. Why? Because with the current zoning and the proposed zoning, they are no longer the same. So because that functioning and businesses that are operating legally, they are going to be grandfathered. But we are not grandfathering structures that have been dilapidated, that have not been working for years. They are not just going to be grandfathered. We are talking about legally established businesses and structures and properties, those who function. They will function the way they are. They can even be able to expand like 50%. However, with that expansion, which is almost half of what they are right now, we are also saying we need to have some landscaping, like Ashley was saying, so that we can enhance these properties. Because one thing that is happening with this zoning update is that we want to take the city to the next level. And taking the city to the next level, we can't just allow someone to say, yeah, you can expand, but do nothing else. We want to make sure that things like landscaping, things that can, make this property more, pleasing aesthetically. So we want to make sure those things are happening. If you are going to expand 50%, and we take it that when someone is expanding 50%, they are doing good business-wise. So let us see something that is more attractive for the city. We are also saying in the events that by the acts of God, something happens to your property, is destroyed. We are also saying that that person can be able to rebuild their property 100% to where it was before the acts of God. So that's another provision also under the grandfathering. We don't want to ignore that things can happen that someone has no control over. But with that, we are also saying you can go ahead and rebuild 100% as it was. There is also the aspect that what if my property is burnt? Part of it is burnt. This grandfathering is allowing for restoration of properties up to 75% of the value of the business, of the value of the property. So you can rebuild, you can restore your property up to 75%. And also the period is 1 year. However, if there is a situation, because circumstances differ. So if there is a situation where you are saying, because of insurances, a lot of other things can come into being. I'm not able to do everything within 1 year. They can always come to the city council. They can always go before planning and zoning and say, hey, can you give me 6 more months? Can you give me 9 more months? And that can be looked at on a case-by-case situation. It's not like overall, but at least the restoration period is 1 year. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that we emphasize, because it was a concern from the community regarding grandfathering and all that. So this is something that the commissioners were happy to do to make sure these changes are in place. So again, like I said, with the future land use amendment, with also the zoning update, the zoning ordinance update, you have the option to approve as presented. Also, you have an option to approve with some changes, and you have to state those changes so they can be made. You also have the option to just say, nah, we are not going to do it, and you deny the update. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission on the 29th, they recommended unanimously that this zoning ordinance update be approved. They put the time to it. They looked into everything. They were happy with what we are presenting to you this morning. So they recommended that the City Council approve this zoning ordinance update. And also staff concurs with the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City Council to hold a public hearing and approve the zoning update as presented. And I'll be happy to answer questions that you might have, as well as the consultant is still online. You can ask questions that you might have, and thank you.
I have 2 questions for Ashley. Ashley, how much time did your firm spend on the ground in Sweetwater? Like driving through, identifying, looking at the property?
Yeah, we had gone there for several trips. The first trip was a multi-day trip where we did a staff-led tour. So we went all over, and then we have been there on the ground for another 2 or 3 trips.
And then the second question, is it customary for a volunteer P&Z board to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours having to fine-tune the zoning map y'all initially came up with, which in my opinion appeared to be very general? And I mean, going to the meetings and observing the process, it was painful.
Well, it's different for every city. As Bester mentioned, when we were first presenting the zoning map, it was based on the future land use map that was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan. So it seems like there was some perhaps changes within that map that people were not happy with. And then once the zoning map was able to reflect what the new future land use map was reflecting, it seemed that people were more pleased with it. Again, we use the adopted future land use map typically as the basis for our proposed zoning map.
Any other questions for Bester or Ashley? Okay, is there anyone else here who wants to speak on this matter? Okay. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, public hearing is now closed. We're back in regular session. We're gonna move on to item 9F, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon approval of an ordinance adopting zoning land use ordinance update for the city of Sweetwater. Before we go on, John, I would kind of echo your comments as far as the amount of work that our P&Z board had to do, as far as taking what was presented to us and making it a better fit for Sweetwater. They did yeoman's work and deserve a lot of credit.
And Buster's work too, let's not forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Any discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Hear a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. I will now read the ordinance into the record. An ordinance adopting zoning land use ordinance update for the city of Sweetwater, Texas, pursuant to Chapter 211 of the Texas Local Government Code, Section 17 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Sweetwater, Texas, providing for the repeal of conflicting provisions, providing for a severability clause, providing for a savings clause, providing for publication and an effective date. Item 9G, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon approval to submit funding applications to the Texas Water Development Board for water and wastewater system improvements. There you are, Justin.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So these applications are for Texas Water Development Board grants for water and wastewater projects. We'd like to submit a drinking water state revolving fund application for well field expansion and a clean water state revolving fund application for wastewater effluent reuse. Also, something that's new this year is the Water Supply and Infrastructure Grants Program. House Bill 500 passed during the 89th legislative session and appropriated a little over $1 billion for water supply and infrastructure projects. This is a one-time 100% grant opportunity. We'd like to apply for this grant and use it to replace some of our large transmission lines in town. We have some 20-inch, some 18-inch, and some 16-inch transmission lines that we'd like to get replaced. And we'd like to use this funding for that. So, any questions?
Did you want to maybe expand a little bit on the affluent permit you discussed?
So the wastewater effluent, we would try to get a grant for irrigation purposes to try to reuse that wastewater effluent.
You mentioned well field expansion. How many new wells are we talking about?
So the previous well field that we drilled in 2014 was 6 water wells, and we would use this grant to do something similar to that. Obtain some land and drill 6 to 8 water wells.
Any further questions for Justin? Now I entertain a motion to approve item 9G.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second the
To
motion.
submit funding
Okay, all right.
applications.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving item 9G, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the approval to submit the funding applications is accepted by the council.
Thank you.
Item 9H, thank you, Justin, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon approval of an interlocal agreement for ambulance services between the city of Sweetwater and Nolan County. Address our questions to you. Are there any questions? Okay, it's my understanding this is the same interlocal agreement, no changes.
There's a couple of changes, but nothing major, and it was an interlocal agreement that will allow us for TAD's department to apply for a grant for a new ambulance through the county.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the interlocal agreement.
Move we approve the interlocal agreement.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the interlocal agreement is approved. Now turn it over to the city manager for his report.
Thank you, sir.
After a year of preparation and waiting, the City of Sweetwater has been awarded a Texas Community Development Block Grant through the Texas Department of Agriculture for needed water infrastructure improvements on Bowie Street. This grant provides up to $750,000 in funding and requires a 15% local match from the city. I thank Justin for his work on this. Then I would like to do a little winter storm employee recognition. As always, our emergency personnel continues to step up during inclement weather. I believe our fire department battled a house fire, and I know our police department was out there working wrecks. But one area that we don't do a very good job of acknowledging is our water department. Year after year, in inclement weather, such as we just had, they always step up. Our community continues to have water when other communities don't or other citizens don't. And as you can see, sub-zero temperatures, they're knee-deep in water fixing leaks. I just want to acknowledge, Justin, your employees for the exemplary job they do all the time for us. Thank you. I also would like to give a shout out to City Hall. Network upgrades that the IT department did. Our IT department is also amazing. They constantly are upgrading and keeping our infrastructure running smoothly and efficiently, and they continue to keep our infrastructure safe. That's a picture of what they did here in City Hall. Upgraded our services, and we appreciate everything they do on a daily basis. And finally, I would like to bid a farewell to Bester. She's going to be leaving the city to get back home to her family, but we do appreciate all the work she did with the Planning and Zoning Committee to push the comprehensive plan and the zoning maps through the goal line. Thank you, Bester.
Thank you, Bester.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you for the Sweetwater Leadership class showing up. I hope y'all enjoyed your trek through the weeds of future land use ordinances. I will now call for a motion for adjournment. Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. And the meeting is adjourned at 10:02.